Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday Talks. We are back with another week of supply and demand. I'm your guest host, Kyle Sipkens. We are so glad to have you here, and we have two awesome guest panelists today. We have Lord and we have Rob Gray. So I'm just going to get you guys to introduce yourselves in a second. But before that, I do want to mention that this is a recorded session. So it's going to be recorded to be put up after the fact for anyone who couldn't join us today. As well, if you have questions at all at any point during the session, you can feel free to either raise your hand or type it in the chat window, and we will try to get to it as quickly as we can as they come up. So first, I want to jump over to Lord. So Lord Varma is a manager of business development with a 25+ year career in consumer packaged goods industry at an executive level with a focus on merchandising, marketing, supply chain, and operations, expanding distributions in food, drug, mass, alt channels, as well as consumer goods. Lord, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. And we've got Rob Gray as well. So with Creative Club Global, vision, action, passion, these three words describe Rob Gray and the company he has built over the last 12 years. Creative Club Global, as a host and MC and performer, Rob shifted his business during the recession of 2009 and created his company delivering education programs for kids in schools, camps, and for events using Lego robotics, coding, and web design. He added the oversized Lego called Everblocks to enhance the business and provides these multicolored blocks for festivals and events across Ontario. Rob, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. And Jay is putting links to your companies and your information there in the chat window. So feel free to check those out after as well. I want to start out with Lord. I'm going to go to you just because that's how I did it in the introduction. So I want to ask you about your company and what it is that canaPHEM does in the before times. So what your company did specifically with festivals and events.
Yeah, so we've been members with the association for quite some time, and we supply medic services, on-site medic services, to provide the health and safety and the proper risk management for a safe event, because no one ever thinks that things are going to happen in an event. So medic services are kind of one of those things that are put in the back burner for the most part, and we're trying to make people aware that we never plan for injury or disaster, but we need to look at that. And so we've been very successful getting that message out, but we still need to keep people aware.
Right. So I mean, when folks are planning festivals or events, obviously your company would be one that they would be considering in their safety plan, and also just part of what they would want on site.
Yeah, 100%. We, typically people will look at first aid and first aiders, which are brilliant, and we do the same services. But then because we also have trained medics on site, they're allowed to do a little bit more because they're all certified, trained, and work within multiple services throughout the city. So some of them work in Durham, some of them work in Toronto, Peel, and Halton regions as paramedics. And they're allowed to do a little bit more than just first aid, which brings more safety to your event and people around you.
That's great. And Rob as well. So with Creative Club Global, so in the before times, as we like to call it, before COVID-19 hit, what is it that your company does, and what would your interactions be like with festivals and events?
Ever since we brought the Everblocks to Canada, going back now 5 years, we operated in festivals offering family fun zones. So as you see the backdrop of me, we'd create the area. We'd have tables and tables with 10,000, 20,000 Lego bricks. We would create a giant chair out of Everblocks for great photo ops, a couch for families to relax as they go through festivals, an area for kids to build their first initial out of the giant blocks and then take a picture, a lot of photo ops. Kids would play in the tree fort. I don't like calling it tree fort because parents get nervous. So it really is a solid fort of Everblocks. So I'll call it a fun fort. And then kids can build their own area as well. So a lot of fun. We joined FEO last year, and at the conference, we had a room full of bricks and blocks, which was a whole lot of fun before everything shut down.
Yeah, I think that was one of the hospitality suites, correct? It's just I saw the room full of furniture and was like, oh my gosh. Like one of the most original room designs I think I've ever seen.
Awesome.
So that's fantastic. So, I mean, obviously now we're going to jump to the moment that has defined a lot of our businesses recently. And, we don't want to belabor the point, but just quickly, Lord, we'll jump over to you. What happened when COVID-19 hit, and what was the impact on your business, and how has it had to adapt?
Yeah, so when COVID was first starting and being introduced, I guess, for lack of a better word, our business had to pivot quickly. We're a medical supply company, so we were supplying masks, we were doing fit testing, we did still do the training and the medics. So that part of the business for us really didn't get affected too much. What did get affected for our standpoint was the amount of people you could have in a room. So going from 20, 15, 20, 30 people for medic services in a room, you're down to now 5. So monetarily, we've lost some big revenue on that standpoint. And then from the mask standpoint, when everyone's wearing masks now. So for us, that was a huge pivot because we were already in that business, because we were supplying to healthcare professionals, and now it was more readily needed. So then that's when we started having to figure out, okay, how are we going to, maintain product, maintain the service, do what we need to do, and just trying to figure out how much product you need, how soon you need to order it, and what the actual demand was, and what kind of mask we were trying to figure out. So that was a positive for our business. But the negative was, again, you really couldn't go and provide a service to a lot of the hospitals that we were working with, a lot of dental offices we were working with, and things to that respect. So it hurt us in that respect, for sure.
Right. So what was it that your company had to do then? Like I don't want to use that word that you typically hear on a basketball court, because it just like, after this long, it sounds like nails on a chalkboard to everybody. But what is it that your business had to do to then be able to adapt and survive in this environment?
Well, I think reevaluate what our target was or what we wanted to do. We really looked at our own community. Number one is to see, in Whitby, where we are, a lot of small businesses and a lot of restaurants and small shops that completely closed down. We tried to work with a lot of the local associations to see how we could help. Do we donate product? Do we, help our local businesses thrive? What do they need? Well, they needed, recertifications on certain things. They needed masks. They needed to come up with safety plans in order to open, because with the health departments knocking on doors saying, hey, are you COVID compliant? Are you not? You can't open your doors. So we were trying to help develop COVID plans for a lot of local businesses and clients out there, and learn how to do that and how to do that properly by following all the rules, versus just kind of going, right, you've got sanitizer by your front door, you've got a mask, you're good to go, which a lot of companies did, right?
So it would also be fair to say then that you're fairly literate in what COVID safety plan requirements are.
100%. Yeah. We'd have to, you have to really understand and kind of pivot through all that red tape in order to help these small businesses and for us, we even had to come up with a plan in order to stay open. Can't have anybody come into our office. So anything that we do is external. So because we do COVID testing, we do it we do it externally. There's no one coming into the offices. We book the appointments, and our team goes to their cars. So it's kind of a drive-through. So we've had to create a drive-through sort of service to help. And again, mobile services as well, going to the client's locations to figure out, okay, do you need to get COVID swabbed? Are you sick? How are you going to stay open? And just messaging. And because there was a lot of confusion, I think, with what was being mentioned in the news and media and things like that, people were very scared. They were scared to do or go anywhere. Didn't know who to trust. Didn't know what to trust. So we tried to give them education. We tried to work with the region here and give educational background and kind of became more of that, I guess, teaching side of things than a service of selling product, right?
Right. And have you been doing any work with film and television as well?
We work right now with a lot of film studios and commercial shoots. So for that end, yeah, they do need PPE, which we supply. They do need a medic on site. They do need a COVID compliance officer, which we do as well, to make sure that that whoever's going on set is safe. Is the set safe? Will this movie or commercial move forward? So we've been really trying to work with that industry right now, and so far successful. People have called on us to be that service, to be that all one kind of, I guess, for lack of a better word, one-stop shop for everything, right?
Right. And that's one of the reasons why film and TV in Canada was able to stay open, whereas in the US, it was constantly having to shut down. It's been constant. And, next year they're expecting that will be even bigger. They're actually expecting like a record year in film and TV. And so, Rob, I want to jump over to you as well. It's like, sorry, that took a little moment. But I want to ask you as well. So your company, we're going back to that moment again when COVID hit. I'm sure you probably had some festivals and things lined up. Can you tell us about what happened when COVID hit and what it is that you've had to do to adapt?
So two sides of the business. There's the education part of it and then the events and festivals. In the education part, we're in over 100 schools doing Lego robotics programs. So we had, at that point when pandemic hit, 35 programs running a week that were shut down. We were just heading into March break, which was more programs for us. We had daycare programs, all on our education end of it. With festivals, we were gearing up for the festival season on the heels of a wonderful FEO conference. So we were, you're talking to a guy who ran 100 miles an hour, and then we just stopped. And we had no online business up until that. So we had to invent ourselves, come up with an online education program for kids, which we did by summer. And we added coding and web design and a bunch of other programs. We did one festival in September, but at a distance. So an Oakville festival had us on a stage, and since I have that background in singing and entertaining, I hosted it. We sang songs. Everybody was socially distanced outdoors. We did some live building with the Everblocks on stage. We did, people would call out things that we wanted to build out of Lego. We did a little Lego building contest. So we made the most of what we could do with festivals. Throughout 2021, we developed our online business more and more. Some programs here and there with the Everblocks, the film festival, we did something. There was a retailer who had us masked and things where we created, display units for them out of the Everblocks. So that worked for us. We look for different ways to use our blocks.
Right. So just to follow up on that then is, a big part of supply and demand is looking at what festival organizers need to know for the year ahead, what it's like working in the COVID environment and what it will be looking like as we continue through and eventually out of it. So what are the practical building blocks, we'll call them, what you've had to do to adapt when you're on site, for instance? What steps have you had to take in how you do your business from arriving on site and, functioning through?
So whereas we'd arrive a certain amount of time before an event, now we're arriving earlier because we now have an area where we've got to have our hand sanitizers. We've got to make sure all the Lego and giant blocks are sprayed and disinfected. We make sure that all kids who come in are hand sanitized before and after each program. And this is our common practice that we're going to take to our schools as well. So we've learned that, well, where we were doing things great before, we can be even better.
Right. So is this something that you can, in terms of the year coming up, is this something that you imagine people will be able to do hands-on, is doing things like the interactive areas, being able to build blocks themselves? Or do you imagine it's going to be more of that you're on a stage and they're providing feedback and you're focusing on the connection from the stage?
I think by the spring, and Lord willing, not that Lord, the other Lord, Lord willing, we are more open to more interactivity. I didn't know we were not able to do a live program with kids until this summer, where we were every day at a camp for two different locations. Everybody hand sanitized before. We were outdoors. And we all wear masks, of course. So that to me was a forerunner for what could happen in festivals. If we could do that and there were no cases, everyone was safe at the camp, then I believe we can do schools and we can do festivals safely. What I think will be is a hybrid approach, Kyle, that some festivals will have more of a stage presence. I hope more will have interactivity, because families are missing it a lot. And kids need that hands-on activity. It helps them learn. It helps them grow. So we'll have it available. We'll make sure that the hand sanitizers there. I know we can do it safely. That's right. The main thing.
Well, and I know that this is something we've been seeing. Like I started to decorate my home set here with Christmas stuff, because obviously Santa Claus parades and holiday events are already happening. And I know for myself, I'm already seeing record attendance at events. I was just in Milton on the weekend, Niagara Falls the weekend before that, and I have never seen crowds like this. People are definitely hungry to be back out there. Yeah. So Lord, I'm going to jump back to you. Because you've been, you obviously have very specific insight into safety plans and into how to work safely and adapting workspaces so that they can continue, especially in film and television, which is very regimented and the requirements are so strict. I'm wondering if you have any insights or any thoughts into what maybe a festival organizer might need to do in the year ahead to create their safety plan. What steps might they have to do on site? What do you imagine might be the most severe scenario, and what do you imagine might be like maybe the lighter requirements?
Right.
That's I know I just dropped a big, that's a lot of wondering there. Oh, and your screen might have actually froze. Hopefully it's going to jump back in. We'll just give it a second here. No, I think he might have froze. Hopefully we can get back to him in a second. So Rob, yeah, he's dropped out there. We'll try to get him back on the line.
Oh, he's back.
There we go. Rob, there, Lord, that was quick. Oh, you are back. You're muted though.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Oh,
right. That's okay. Yeah. So sorry. So the question did, I don't know where you froze.
Right at the beginning, I think. Right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning. Okay. Yeah. So sorry. That's yeah. So I obviously it's a big question and a very loaded one. But using your insights and experience working in festivals and events and helping workspaces adapt their safety plans, what do you imagine might be some of the requirements, or what might be some of the steps people need to have in place for a festival for the year ahead?
Yeah. So again, I think the way the festivals are going to run, they're going to be they are going to have to be safer. We are going to have to be more aware of space and cleanliness and the hand sanitizers and masks, but the size of the festival as well. Making sure there's some sort of security. We don't want to go through what's, unfortunately has happened in a couple of the concerts that have that happened. One, with Drake and his whole thing a couple of weeks back, and just recently in Wisconsin and that whole scenario of their Santa Claus parade. I don't know if you can stop that sort of activity, but you can certainly plan for it. You can certainly have an idea of best case scenarios. Best case scenario is a bee sting, a cut, put a Band-Aid on it. That's your best case. Heat exhaustion or just tired, headaches, and things to that respect. Worst case is a severe injury. So, you want to plan for the severe injury, hoping it never happens, but, being ready for it. And I think festivals, any event like this, have to be more prepared and better prepared for that versus saying it's never going to happen in mine. It's never happened before. And I've heard that, a lot in the last little while when we are making calls to clients to see what they're doing for their health and safety. Well, we're using our local fire department. We're using our local paramedic department and services.
Oh, you might have frozen again, Lord.
He's in a cold place.
That's it. That's okay. Well, he might have to sign back in again, so we'll give him a chance there. So Rob, we'll jump back to you as well. I have a follow-up question for Lord that hopefully we can get to after. But for yourself, so again, we kind of looked at what are some of the steps that you've been taking in terms of sanitation and things like that. Are there things that you have been seeing around at the events that you did do? And I know you work with schools as well. Are there some requirements that you're starting to see that you imagine might be some of the best practices or requirements for coming to festivals in the year ahead?
I think the standard ones that you see in most public places, and that is hand sanitizer and masks. Hopefully next year at some point we can get rid of the masks, especially for outdoor programs. But I think hand sanitizer and being smart around people. I guess we're human animals. We love to hug. And, I'm just hearing on the news today, what are you going to do? They had a survey. What are you going to do over the holidays? Are you going to hug somebody or give an elbow bump? And it's really up to the individual how you feel about it. But we say we all need a hug, but we all could use a hug. And in a grander sense, the community hug. We need community events to connect, to reconnect with everybody and see everybody. So in answer to your question, just the enhanced hand sanitizer for sure, which will become part of our everyday life, I have no doubt. And hand washing and watching our distance and making sure that we're not, as Seinfeld says, the close talker. We're distance between people, and I think that will work fine.
Well, and like you've hit on a major point there. So Louise Jackson hosts the Reconnect sessions as part of Tuesday Talks, and that is a big part of what festivals and events are. And I know we started to talk about this in our planning meeting as well. Festivals and events are important for a number of reasons. That it shares our cultural stories. It helps us remind us of who we are and where we're going. But more than that, it is where communities gather. It's where strangers become neighbors and neighbors become friends and friends become family. It's such an important thing. It is community building. It strengthens local economies, and it's things that, we're all aware of, but sometimes we put in the back of our minds. But it is, I think, going to be a major part of how we move forward. And Lord, so glad that you're able to reconnect again. It's, you know what, technology, it's been a part of our regular lives, I guess, that since we've had to adapt to Zoom meetings. So
Well, I apologize, everybody. Sorry.
No, no. It's not your fault at all. And I think we're all used to it. But we were talking a little bit about, you know, some of the safety considerations that you imagined might be part of it. So I wanted to follow up from that as well, because I know we kind of got cut off. Was there anything that we missed at the end there?
Oh, I think just most importantly is when we're looking at trying to do any kind of event of any sort, whether it be a large festival or a small intimate sort of scenario, we have to look at the full scope. We have to understand the full scope that's there and take in consideration every aspect, you know, and make sure that you're providing a safe environment, regardless of what it is, for crew, cast, and spectators, you know, and that's really the message I think we need to put out there.
Absolutely. And like, it's like, I think it really does boil down to preparedness, just planning. And, you know, maybe there's been a typical footprint or a safety plan that's been in place for a number of years. So really, if they are starting, and I think some festivals are starting to meet and plan now with their committees, what is it that they should be doing, you know, to revise that safety plan? Who can they reach out to?
Well, I think they should really look at the township that they're in. They need to, you know, look at what's the insurance policy on having that event. There's nothing worse than an injury and then having bad press. So, you know, how many people are you going to have at your event? What's the minimum requirement that's needed, and kind of prepare from that standpoint. You know, and that's kind of information we try to provide when we speak to our clients, to say, you know, you're in this scenario, your municipality has this as kind of a bylaw that you have to follow. Here's our recommendations, and kind of feed them that information and educate them on it, and let them make their decisions that way.
Right. And that is something I think that, you know, we've, at least during COVID, we've started to see, is that every region, especially their health unit, you know, how much of an impact it has, you know, in seeing what can happen. And, you know, even just building those best practices, it's kind of a region by region case basis.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Kyle, just a point on that, as a supplier at an event, I would love to know what the security, you know, and what the health and safety procedures are. And it's almost, and I know in your business too, we as part of your festival would love to know what happens if, worst case scenario, where do we turn? What are the procedures so that if something happens, it's followed?
Right. And you're absolutely right. Like, having those conversations early, consider, like, taking in everyone as part of your team. You know, when a festival happens, you're building a city within a city out of nowhere. So making sure that everyone, even your suppliers who you maybe work with, they may have their own practices, but do you have your own requirements? How can they adapt what they're doing so that everyone works safely together? Is it daily check-ins? Is it, sanitation protocols? That's absolutely, it's a great point. And Rob, I want to have I want to ask you as well, as a supplier, how prepared are you for festivals and events to come back? Like, what would your typical lead time be for an event, and what kind of lead time do you need now, and where is your inventory at? Where's your staffing at? Like, what type of notice do you need to get things back up and rolling with your festival partners?
My first answer is the truck is warmed up, the blocks are ready, and I'm ready to go. That's how much I want to get back to festivals and events. Lead time, you know, we've gotten a week's notice for events coming up. We can do that if needed. Yes, staffing is a bit of a challenge now because people have gone off and done their own thing. They've adjusted their lives and decided what they want to do. We've got a small team, but as events ramp up, we're going to grow that team, of course. We're looking at events possibly for the holidays, also for New Year's Eve. So we're gearing up for that. We're getting our team together. But lead time, yes, I would say, right now would be a great time to plan for next spring, summer, because I think it is going to be a bit of the roaring 20s in that festivals, there's a lot, as you've seen from events this month, and that people want to get out and enjoy festivals and be part of the community again. So I think that a lot of clients are going to book early as soon as their budgets are set and they know exactly what they want to do. We at Creative Club, we want to be that family fun center. So that is the focal point. I've seen in festivals where parents are literally dragging their kids away from the Lego. No. It is a fun area at a festival for kids to really, and families to enjoy. And we're going to add a few things this year, which is really cool. We're going to add some education. So we're going to be on microphone. We're going to actually teach kids how to build. We're going to be bringing robotics to festivals. We just did that at Thanksgiving. We tried it out. So we're marrying our education background with entertainment and bringing that education. If you can imagine, robotics is like building with Lego and then making it move. So we're bringing that either interactively or we can build it and show the kids in both ways.
That's fantastic. And I do want to remind everyone on the call, if you have a question, feel free to either raise your hand or type it in the chat, and we'll try to get to it as quickly as we can. I want to do a little bit of fortune telling if we can. And as I know we've talked a little bit about it from, as suppliers from your perspective, but, working in the industry and, working in different workspaces and seeing different trends, I wonder if from each of your perspectives, if we were to look in the crystal ball, what do you see as emerging trends? What do you see as things that will be coming up for 2022? And Lord, we'll start with you.
Trends for 2022. I think people are excited. People want to be out and doing things. I don't know if you experienced Halloween this year with friends or family or just in your general neighborhood. I have my daughter out this year, and people were excited. People were excited to see people on the streets. They were excited to have people walk up their driveways. The interaction, the conversation with neighbors they probably haven't seen in 2 years, being locked in their homes and staying pretty local. So I think we're looking at just an exciting time of kids and parents and people wanting to interact, wanting to get back to what, that back to normal sort of scenario. In events and exhibits like what Rob's putting together with his Lego, kids love that. Parents love that. With the mixing of his educational and his interaction. People want that kind of activity happening in front of them. They want to feel part of something. And we've lost it. And I think that's where people want to go. That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to see. And that's where I think things are going to go. I really think people are hungry to be out there. Absolutely.
And Rob, over to you.
Same thing as Lord has said, and thank you for the shout out, Lord. I really feel like interactivity is and also community. I mean, we've talked about this, Kyle. I feel like, when there's an event that canceled last summer, and I love the event so much. It's a Toronto event, and when the organizer canceled it, I felt really sad because I was part of that community. I didn't live in the community, but I was invited and a guest of that community. And you would see your friends' kids on stage performing, and it was a true community event. So we are missing the trend, we want to call it, is back to community. And if you can have interactive things throughout your festival and signage, we do a lot of signage. We're doing more signage now than we've ever done because it spells out something. It brings the community together. So one example, during the pandemic, we did a welcome back sign in some of the schools. So again, out of the giant blocks, you have that, okay, I'm welcome back. There's a connection by providing more signage. But we also need that community. That's the trend. And that's not a trend. That's all that's old is new again.
And you know what, that is an interesting idea as well, because it's something that I've seen before the pandemic started, and certainly something that will continue is, putting things like site maps, for instance, or signage of where things are is extremely important. Sometimes it goes up on the website, sometimes it's at kind of a central location, but putting it throughout the festival, putting, especially where the really important things are, washrooms, first aid tent, where these things are, where are the almost an overuse of signage is great, but also finding ways to use those as opportunities to bring in the festival experience, or bring in that sense of excitement, that sense of connection. Are you actually using your building blocks to create those signs?
Yeah, we do that. We do the giant blocks. So we do a welcome back sign. We've done a Canada sign, festival signs for direction. We do it for, anything, for, washrooms here. And then lounges, a lot of interactive lounges we're doing for events and conferences coming up, because there's a couch, 2 chairs, and it invites creativity when you sit in it. So that's also great in our area about interactivity.
And you know what, the idea of a lounge is fantastic in terms of, creating a VIP experience in some cases, in other cases, just creating a rest. But I think there's going to be a lot of people, and we were kind of touching on it a little bit earlier, about people as they return to events are probably going to have different comfort levels, different feelings of anxiety. Maybe they haven't actually been to an event that large, or really seen people outside of their close family or close friends in a long time. Creating those kind of relaxed sensory environments, or opportunities for people to just, be away from the noise, but have their own space, could be, extremely useful, and finding creative ways of allowing them to have that easing moment.
Photo ops are great too. We have people lined up sometimes for our giant chair just to take a picture, and a big sign that says awesome on it, and the child shows, or a family photo right on the Lego lounge on the couch. So there's also great opportunity for you to distance beyond other families with your own family to take pictures. Absolutely.
And again, just a reminder, if anyone does have a question, either about, event safety, or about interactivity, anything that might have come up, feel free to put it in the chat, or raise your hand. But, I'm kind of getting near towards the end of my questions, but I'm really hoping that this has stimulated an idea or something else that someone is wondering about. But I also want to ask, another theme that has come up with supply and demand is obviously the supply chain. That costs are being impacted. Lord, I'm wondering if your business has been impacted by, any of these external things that, we've never really had to deal with before. Again, we never imagined in our lifetime, but those things are certainly happening in our lifetime.
Yeah, so for us right now, I'd say the biggest challenge is face masks. We used to be able to get them without an issue prior, because again, our client base at that time was healthcare. So to get masks, face masks, and those items was very easy. The pricing was very reasonable to purchase. Now, because everyone's buying them, there's pop-up stores that are selling masks here, there, everywhere. Everyone's selling them. They may not be proper medical masks, but people are selling them. We've had to work, and we've built some really good, strong relationships with the vendors that we deal with and suppliers we deal with. So we kind of had to plan. When we came back, when canaPHEM opened reopened, I guess, for lack of, for the pandemic, we planned. We pivoted, we changed, we said, okay, well, we know this is going to happen, so we need to talk about our variety. We don't want to bring in a lot of inventory. We're not a big facility, so we can't house a lot of things. But what's the number one sort of item people are buying? Those blue surgical masks. We read reports because people that run this organization, they're paramedics. They've got medical background, so they know what to look for, what not to look for. So those are the people that we geared towards to say, okay, we're looking for 3 different types of masks or 4 different types of masks that are going to still work with our current client base and will help the average consumer that's looking for product.
Right.
So I think we just really understood and had to figure out where and how much product to bring in, how to house it, and then make concessions for certain people and certain businesses. We did a lot of work with camps this summer where the camp's future relied on either going or not going. So you have a bunch of kids that are excited to go to camp, but they're kind of on that cusp because the camp's not opening because the government's telling them it's not safe.
Right.
But they need to order, they need to plan for all that. So with all that being kind of put in place, we said, well, place your orders. We'll do our part to get your product. If camps move forward, then we'll bill you, we'll charge you. If they don't, we're not going to charge you for anything. Right. So it helped that aspect. And then we could really budget to see what we needed to do and how we could order and how we could build those relationships with our suppliers to say, here's our situation. Can you work with us? And we've been lucky enough to have really good suppliers that have worked with us and have provided us with product and really no questions asked. So, yeah.
And what are, for instance, if a festival's planning on that they're still going to be using masks in the year ahead, are you able to share, even at high level, what is it that the minimum mask that you should be using in these environments? Like I know masks have become kind of a part of daily life. So we're used to a number of masks, but maybe we use a variety of them. What is it that folks should be looking for in a mask for their staff or for their presenters or,
Yeah, I think a lot of it, Kyle, is, the bare minimum is a surgical level 3 mask. That's the bare minimum. Depending on your environment, you can go to an N95 mask, which are the white cone shaped sort of ones that you're seeing a lot of people using. But bare minimum should be a level 3 surgical mask, or the blue ones, but they should be a level 3. If you're using cloth masks or gaiters, you're really not protecting anything. You're really not protecting yourself or anyone you're with. It's kind of like holding up a t-shirt to your mouth and hoping that you're not spreading anything or anything like that. But I'd say the bare minimum for any of the suppliers or festivals that are looking to protect or go down that route, I would say level 3 masks would be on their checklist for sure.
Right. And Rob, I'm going to jump back to you in a second, but I also want to ask a follow-up because, again, just so that our planners know, I know that there's also a lot of hand sanitizer out there and folks may be looking to buy in bulk. What is it in a sanitizer that we're looking for to protect the public?
Well, I think it shouldn't be harsh. Look at what's going into the sanitizer. Some of them aren't great. And I would certainly look at companies that specialize in that. We sell it, we supply it, but there are people that specialize in that area that we would say, here, talk to these guys. You don't want ones that really are perfumey. And you want to obviously with ones that we've got now that really have a bad odor to them. But again, it depends on how harsh it is on your skin. because there's a lot of allergies out there, a lot of skin conditions, things like that. We have to be very cautious of that. Washing your hands with soap and water. Yeah. If it's available, that's probably the right route to take.
Yeah. Yeah. Having, increased hand washing stations around, in addition to hand sanitizer, would absolutely be a smart and always a good idea, because, sanitizer doesn't sometimes get some of the sticky stuff that gets on your hands at a festival. And Rob, over to you as well.
Actually, Kyle, I got a quick question for Lord. What about cloth masks that are triple ply?
Cloth masks are, again, it would be like taking your shirt, wrapping it up a couple of times and putting it on your face.
Okay.
There's really no filter to it, Rob. You need to look at the filtration portion of what you're purchasing.
Okay. Okay. There's a lot of cloth masks. That's why I was wondering. Okay. Thank you.
No, that's great. But Rob, as well, like, if there's anything outside that's affecting your business, like what, in terms of supply chain, things like that, what do people need to know, when they're booking you as well, that you are now dealing with that maybe you haven't in the past?
Supply chain issues are internal, not external to the client whatsoever. So we have, over 2,000 of the blocks. We can handle lots of festivals. I've learned that lead times are a little slower with the giant blocks, but not too bad. With our robotics kits, with our Lego, it's a little delayed, but not too much in our industry. But again, that's not affecting the client whatsoever.
Right. Well, and we started to talk about it a little bit earlier as well. Just so it sounds like, there are things affecting your bottom line, but you're focused on trying to not have that impact fall onto the client.
Exactly.
And
it would not, I'm sorry to interrupt, Kyle. It would not affect the client at all. What we deal with internally.
And are you able to, obviously, I mean, a business has to make its bottom line, but, I'm guessing that the focus there is on maintaining long-term relationships. Like how important are those to your company?
Oh my gosh, they're everything. There's a reason why we've been here 12 years, again, on the education side and the entertainment side. On the education side, I have principals I go back 12 years with. As they travel around to schools, we go with them to their new schools. Relationships are everything. On the events and entertainment side, I have people that I have worked with, over 25 years. I have a vast background in the entertainment industry and through the International Live Event Association. And those relationships have remained for many, many years. And that has brought us new business. For some of our festivals, yes, we've worked with them 2, 3, 4, 5 years now. And it's important to us because, we do a little summary at the end and go, I'm never satisfied. I mean, I'm happy. But as a supplier, I want to know how we can be better, and I'm always trying to push the limit. We're looking at a giant cutout of a Lego brick maybe for next year's festivals that people can, or measure your height in Lego bricks. I'm always thinking of the next idea so we can be even more to our clients.
Well, and you started to touch on something as well as like, obviously this Tuesday Talk series has been an incredible thing that, Debbie and Jay and the FEO team have put together to, basically on a weekly basis, check in with our community and provide information sometimes as it changes. So I'm wondering from each of you, and Rob, I'll ask you first, since we've just been chatting, what is the importance of networks like FEO for your business and how you connect and communicate?
So being a part of, years ago, the International Live Event Association, which was called the International Special Event Society at the time, but they realized their initials spelled ISIS, so they've changed it.
That's time for a rebrand.
That's right. So international, and I was president of the Toronto chapter for 2 years, 03 and 04, during the SARS year too. So I'm very much aware of the benefits of being part of an association and having that community, not only locally, but nationally and internationally. with FEO, and I've known of it for many years. I finally joined last year, and Debbie has been so wonderful. We talked about the hospitality suite. It's been so important having those check-in calls, and I know we participate in these Tuesday, but there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. There's a lot of members connecting with each other. We had a lot of questions about, how do we deal with our supply issues? How do we deal with our product that we're not using? So I've been calling out to members, asking them that I've met, having a lot of conversations with Debbie of who I should speak to, and industry related conversations that have helped my business. It's also, we are isolated. For many of us, we're working from home. We've got our kids in the background. So having that reach out gives us confidence. And I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. It makes us feel connected to the community, to have that network in FEO to communicate with. And we have good days and we have bad days. And to have that connection is so important.
Right. And Lord, to you as well, like what's the importance of networks, like FEO or other networks that you're a part of in your business?
Yeah, I think, I'm going to echo part of what Rob has said. I think any network and association that you're a part of is important. It's an education. So to be able to reach out to, members and have that discussion, to use them as a resource, use them as a sounding board. You need it. Every business needs it. Every person needs it, I think. Rob said something about, just needing someone to talk to, in a lack of a better, better wording, but there's someone there. So you reach out to Debbie, greatest resource for this business, knows who to speak to, knows how to kind of tell you, you need to cater it this way, or maybe try that approach. I think those are the important things that any association or membership that you're a part of, you need to try to capture and work within. And it's really a sounding board for ideas and kind of keeping yourself sane.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a lot that we don't know. I mean, working in live events, especially, and, doing festivals, it can be very high stress, but now, we usually rely on years of experience. Now we're entering into things that we don't know. And there is still a lot that we don't know, but a lot that we can learn from each other. And if we looked at the amount of members that we have and the individual experience of each of those members and added it up, I can only imagine how many years experience there would be behind this community. And I see Debbie has a question there, so I'll jump over.
Hi everyone, great conversation. This is so good. So I'm just curious. We're always talking about networking within like other festivals and within with each other, but how do you network like with other suppliers? Because it's always been my belief that festivals sort of work within their community and know what's going on within their community for the most part. But you, as the suppliers, you're out around Ontario. You're not always just in one particular community. So do you share and reach out to other suppliers to find out what's going on and collaborate?
From my standpoint, for our company, absolutely. We speak to, we kind of have to speak to our counterparts and see what direction they're going into, how they're pivoting and how they're maneuvering through the same situations. And sometimes it's a brainstorming. It's exactly this conversation that we're having now. It's kind of a brainstorming situation where you ask the question, okay, yeah, I've spoken to this individual over here and they supply a product, but they're running into this hurdle or a roadblock. And you can bounce that off of them and see how it relates to your business or someone else's business. So if I was to, I'll use Rob just because I know Rob from in his business and what he's doing and things. If he's having a challenge going, hey, I'm trying to really break in and get contact with, I don't know, Kempville Fair, for example. Do you have a contact, or how did you get there? You're more likely to kind of tell that person because, one, they're in your group, they're in your network, they're in the same discipline and channel that you're trying to work within. To work together. I mean, I think it's a team, and I think a lot of people forget that the environments that we're in, we're all vying for the same success of a successful event, a successful trade show. Making more contacts and getting the word out of how to make things better and more exciting and improving and innovation. So I think yeah, you have to use all your resources regardless from now or from your careers in the past, because I think they all sort of interchange. It's kind of like that 6 separations of Kevin Bacon scenario, right? Everyone knows somebody at something, and I fully believe that that's the way we have to get back to it. I think we have to go back to the old way of doing things versus looking at computers and iPhones and things like that. We're forgetting that human side of things. Right.
And Rob, I want to give you a chance to answer as well.
Well, first, I want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah. That's all. That's something we did.
Fantastic.
I found, Kyle, that I've had the most honest and genuine conversations with industry friends and even competitors that I've ever had during the pandemic. People seemed less bravado, more honest, more open to communications because everyone's in the same boat. I think of all the amusement companies that have all these bouncy castles that are sitting around, and I had conversations with them because my Everblocks were sitting around doing nothing too, and I'm asking them, what do they do storage space wise? When do we think we can connect? And these conversations just turned into amazing ideas, not only with the suppliers, but also event venues, because they were empty as well. It's interesting. I spoke to an event venue last week, and they have 6 venues, and they looked more haggard than I was because they don't have the business even to recommend my service yet, let alone have some of the staffing that they need to put their events on. So everybody's in the same boat. It is a great time to share and be honest and have good communications and be able to improve all of us.
That's fantastic. And I mean, I know we're in our final moments here, but I also want to, share just from an entertainer perspective as well as, sometimes people think that, like buskers, for instance, that we're competition. I mean, in a way we are kind of in a lighthearted sense, but actually we are a community. If someone is doing a show and someone's mic cuts out, you will see all the other buskers run to that pitch to find a solution. They're checking the soundboard, checking the PA, and in one case actually saw another performer MacGyver together their audio cable on their headset back so they could continue their show. And this is something you will always see. We are a community. We are there for each other. So it's reaching out to fellow suppliers is absolutely part of how we all stay here. And I do want to give an opportunity as well. If anyone else has another question before we go, feel free to either raise your hand or type in the chat that you have a question. But we are in our final moments here. So I do also want to let you know that. So next week we have Dwayne McCulkin from Canada's Wonderland. So you don't want to miss that, because I'm sure in terms of, looking at what a large event venue does and how they've been operating during this time, I'm sure there's a lot of information they can share. And I believe they're doing their holiday changeover, which seems to happen overnight from Halloween haunt to the holidays, which is just a massive undertaking. But I don't see any other questions. So I want to thank our guests, Lord and Rob. Thank you so much for being here today. I think this was a lot of great conversation. There was some great information shared. And just for each of you, I know that your website is in the chat. But if, is there any other social channels or anywhere that they can reach you, Lord, if you want to share first, and then Rob?
Well, we're on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram at canaPHEM.ca. So by all means, please reach out, and then our website as well. Yeah.
And for you, Rob, as well. Yep.
I am an old school guy. Give me a call or email me, because that way I know it's direct channel. With so many different social media things, it's hard to check on them all. So if you just email me, rob@creativeclubglobal.com, or my phone number, 416-948-2610, is always great.
And for Rob and Lord, both of their web addresses are in the chat window there. And of course, we do also want to invite everyone to join us on December 14th. We're going to have it's beginning to look a lot like the holidays. So we're going to have a ugly sweater holiday party with lots of fun. There's going to be some great surprises that you're going to like, probably some tasty treats, and a nice way to reconnect before the holidays. So please do join us. Make sure to register for that session. You can reach out to Debbie or Jay if they have any questions. And I want to thank you at home for joining us as well, whether you're watching it today in the Zoom or whether you're watching on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us. And please do tune in again next week. So from all of us, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on Tuesday Talks.